welcome to the Appliance Academy podcast. We have our guest today, Akshita Iyer, who is with the Ome Smart Knob company, the founder, the creator, I believe, of the smart technology where you're able to replace a knob on most any range and have that virtual remote control through an app to be able to make sure it's turned off, also be able to interact with it. So we're going to learn more about that. So Akshita, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So for the listeners who are not familiar with the Ome, why don't you tell us just right off the top, what is the Ome?
Yeah, so Ome, our first product under, I guess, the Ome brand is the only smart knob on the market today that can retrofit onto your existing gas or electric stove that really makes cooking easier, safer, and more enjoyable. And so the way that it works is we have a smart knob that replaces your existing stove knob, completely DIY to install, takes under 5 minutes, basically turns your dumb stove into a smart one, and allows you to retain access and control from anytime, anywhere through a smartphone app. But importantly, we actually offer safety and peace of mind. So we have built-in automatic shutoff and safety lock features. The number one cause of house fires is unattended cooking. And so we are approaching the kitchen from a bit of a different angle than I think other players are. And we're really looking at, safety and peace of mind as our entry point, and then building out from there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I like all the cutting edge technology in the appliance industry seems to come up from the startups, right? They're the nimble ones, they're the ones who can get an idea going. And then we see it start to integrate into some of the built-ins, and the larger manufacturers are definitely not as quick moving, right? So really exciting to see this is another component of that. There's some items out there that do similar things, but in different format, or this is really I like because you can retrofit an existing knob. How does that work? How is, if we can get wonky for a second, the mechanism that it's actually, using, actually connecting to the existing range.
Yeah, so you can imagine there are a lot of different brands out there, a lot of different models out there. And so we did a lot of research up front to figure out what are the commonalities, what are the differences, and with our Gen 1 device, we have about 65% compatibility. And the way we do that is, when you pull your knob off, if you ever have before, there's a little shaft there. And we built an adapter that basically goes onto that shaft. We give you an installation tool that allows you to set the height properly. And then you basically just snap our knob right back on. And our knob functions just like your regular stove knob. So you don't have to relearn how to use your stove. You push, you turn. So all of that mechanism is the same. The only difference is that this has a motor inside, and it connects to Wi-Fi. So it can actually, because of the connection with the base of your stove, it can proactively and automatically control the burner based on any input.
Oh, wow. Great. So does the whole knob move when it moves? Like even
Yeah, you can see it on our website. It does move. So it's kind of like an August lock, or like a smart lock. If you have a lock, it basically just rotates on its own. So we don't allow you to remotely turn on your burner just for safety reasons. But once you do turn it on, then you have full control to adjust the temperature, to set cooking timers, to turn it off remotely, or whatever it is that you want to do.
Right. Yeah. And some people may not realize that, but there are safety features or restrictions. You can't, even the remote ovens, you can't truly turn them on. You have to have them engaged initially in the remote setting. So that makes sense that's compatible there, because we wouldn't want, to turn a flame on when we're not even in proximity, but we want to have that control. Great. So tell me a little bit about the interface. So when people get it, they can use their range just like they already have been with the tactile manual turn on off. But then when you've got this smart, what's making it smart? It's connecting to an app, is that right?
Correct. So it connects to an app. We walk you through both a physical installation process, and then also, to connect it to Wi-Fi. And so through our app, you can monitor from anywhere. So you leave the house, you have that moment of panic, you're not sure if the stove is off, you can just check. You can remotely turn it off, but then you can also set cooking timers. You can get notifications if the stove was left on, even though we will automatically turn it off for you. And you can also actually control our device with Alexa. So we
Mm,
integrated because, as I'm sure you know, one of the most used skills is a cooking timer. So we thought, and that was actually one of the things that our customers started to ask us for, is that I use it
hmm
all the time. What if I could just say, hey, Alexa, turn burner one off in 10 minutes? We
hmm
can actually communicate that.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so you can say not just give me a timer, like a kitchen timer and ring a bell, but you're actually saying you're going to shut off
Correct.
after this amount of time. Wow.
Yeah, proactive, much more proactive control. So,
Yeah.
and I think that was a big value proposition for us, is that, yes, we could have built a slightly less smart knob where we could just
hmm
tell you if the stove is on or off. But what we
Yeah.
really felt that consumers needed was a, a proactive measure, where even if you're
hmm
not there, that that you have that safety layer that's going to make sure that you
hmm
get that peace of mind that you deserve.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I see that with consumers a lot now. They're expecting those data points available to them wherever they
Yeah.
are and that interaction. And we're seeing it integrated into ovens where you can turn them off remotely or even check what status things are at,
Yeah.
which is really great. And I'm a big fan of induction cooking because of some of those safety features where it does automatically shut off after, if it gets too hot or it can't be
Yeah.
turned on without cookware there. Do
Yeah.
you have, so you can program and say, hey, I'm cooking for 10 minutes and then you're going to shut off.
Yeah.
Can you do like a default, hey, in no scenario am I ever going to be cooking longer than say an hour. So
Yeah.
just go ahead and shut off if it's ever
Yeah.
on.
Exactly. So that's how our automatic shut off feature works. So there's a
Okay.
default timer that you can change to however long you want, where
hmm
if the time expires, it will automatically turn off. We do give you a warning just in case you're like, wait, I actually need it on. We don't want to be
Right.
obtrusive to
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
cook and the things that you need to get done in the kitchen, but you can adjust that based on what your cooking preferences are.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, because that's peace of mind. And then, I work with a lot of clientele that we're always working for the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's good to have that in mind that
Yeah.
that reassurance is there.
Yeah.
Um, what what else can people do with this that you want them to know about that really kind of changes the way they cook or the way they engage with their cooking ranges?
Yeah, I mean, I think our primary functionality right now is really around giving you the same level of safety and security and peace of mind that you get everywhere else in your home.
hmm
Where we are starting to see, opportunity to expand, I think, is on two fronts. One is we see a lot of our customers that are installing this for their aging family members.
Yeah.
And, which again is a lot around peace of mind and safety and
hmm
security. But what we're also able to do is pull a lot of cooking data from our device. Every time you turn the stove on or a burner on, we know how long you're cooking for, what time of day you're cooking. We know how many auto shutoffs engage. And our first application of that is actually being able to detect inconsistencies in cooking activity for older adults, where we can
Mm.
actually use cooking data to say, hey, X person stopped cooking for 3 days, and we have some kind of indicator to a caregiver or a property manager
hmm
or whomever it is that, hey, something might be wrong. Or if the auto shut off starts to engage a lot, we can actually flag that it could be some early indicator of cognitive decline. And I
mm
think we get a lot of this data and we use a lot of it with smart technology, right? You think about your smart beds like 8 Sleep or your
hmm
Oura Rings, your wearables. They're all using data to provide insights back to their customer base. And I think that's what we're trying to do with the ability to get into your kitchen today is, yeah,
hmm
we can make cooking safer, we can make cooking easier, but what can we actually tell you about how you're cooking, what you're cooking? And I think eventually if we can integrate into the food journey, right? If you think about recipe content and we can actually
hmm
what you're cooking, we know what you're cooking, then I think that opens up a lot of opportunity for a variety of players to bring different parts of that cooking journey together.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm intrigued by because I see all these different pieces in the marketplace, um, where you are getting information, you are getting data that you can use, but no one brand has quite stitched it all together to where,
Yeah.
the dream is have a digital meal plan that spits out not only a shopping list, but could also go ahead and order for you and deliver.
Yeah.
Um, and then those recipes being interactive, in the cooking experience.
Yes.
So I know Heston Q has guided recipes, um, and some of the built-in ovens now have the touch screens that have step-by-step guidance, or at least
Yeah.
reminders and things like that. Do you have any step-by-step procedures that you're got
Yeah.
integrated?
Yeah, so not yet.
Mhm.
Our goal first was, and because of personal experience, was to solve for unattended cooking hazards.
Yes.
Because we knew that that was something that nobody was really tackling. But then I think what we've always known is that this is a stepping stone and a foundation to be able to take really any input,
Mhm.
and bridge that gap between your recipe content, whatever other guided cooking technologies that you have, and marry that with your most used cooking appliance. And I
Mhm.
think we have so much interesting, cool technology in the kitchen. I mean, you mentioned, what's happening with smart ovens, you've got sous vide,
Mhm.
and uh, but I think we're trying to bring that same level of precision and convenience to a an appliance that has largely been left behind. And I think
Mhm.
it's just because it's so interactive, right? You've got to
Mhm.
stir, you've got to, there's like 4 or 5 burners that you have to keep, tabs on. And so for us, I think in building this retrofit, we can get into the kitchen today. We don't have to wait for you to buy a new appliance, but
Right.
you now have opportunity to integrate with a variety of other sensors, a
Mhm.
variety of other, recipe channels and content, where then we can just translate that into a step-by-step process. And I don't think that's something that we ever, that we want to do alone. I think, and
Yeah.
to your point, there are a lot of the industry is very fragmented. And so we
Yeah.
see an opportunity to be like, hey, someone else has this already. They know how to do
Mhm.
it well. Can we bring these two things together so consumers don't have an extra app, right? They have to open, and let's start marrying some of
Right.
these pieces and bringing the puzzle together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what's needed is a centralized
Yeah.
collection point, and yeah, because everyone's doing their own little part, and so
Yeah.
stitching them together, I think would be good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, uh, let's bigger picture here. What motivated you initially to even get into this space or to build this specific product?
Yeah. So my background is not anything closely related to this. I actually went to Duke for neuroscience, thought I was going to go to med school. I took
Hmm.
a few gap years just because I wasn't convinced that medicine was what I wanted to do, or at least not yet. And so I thought, let me get some work experience. And I just started watching a lot of Shark Tank in that time, got very inspired by all of
Hmm.
these people who didn't have your traditional engineering or product development or business backgrounds, just building solutions for their own problems. And so I
Hmm.
was in that frame of mind when my mom actually left the stove on one too many times and started a kitchen fire.
Hmm.
And it was a big kind of reality check for my family, only because, I mean, we've spent our entire life in the kitchen. Like my entire childhood was in the kitchen. Every meal was cooked at home. And so there's so much meaning. And that's the case, I think, for a lot of people. And so much meaning in the time that we spend together as a family, the memories we make there. And when this happened, it was like the house died.
Hmm.
Not only that, but there are ripple effects, right? I mean, food as medicine is starting to show that when
Hmm.
you cook fresh food at home, you lead a healthier life. And because my mom was, someone that cooked the most, she had all this anxiety and stress around cooking. And so, my parents' diet got worse.
Hmm.
And so I was like, we have so much smart technology. The smart home era is here. 80% of homes have at least one, smart home automation device, but
Yeah.
only 3% of households have been able to afford a smart appliance. And so,
Hmm.
we were early adopters of all of these smart devices. And a big commonality between them that I saw was that they're all retrofit, right? You're just
Hmm.
reimagining something that you use every day.
Right.
And so there's minimal customer education, intuitive, your smart doorbells, your door locks, thermostats.
Hmm.
And so I thought, what if I could find a better way to provide the same, the level of safety and peace of mind in the kitchen that we have everywhere else, but in a way that didn't require a lot of customer education and that didn't
Hmm.
require a long purchase cycle.
Right.
And I just, really just dove head first. I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Right.
It's like, how hard could it be to build a smart knob? It's like plastic, a motor, a board, you put it in a box and you ship it.
Uh-huh.
And that ignorance was probably for the best, because I think
Hmm.
oftentimes, entrepreneurs probably wouldn't start if they actually knew what they were getting into. But I think over time, as I started talking to more people, as I started really just pitching this to anybody and everybody who would listen to me, I started to see the magnitude of what we could do beyond just safety, and that, you know,
Hmm.
this really open an opportunity to get technology into the home sooner. And yes, in the future, everything's going to be integrated. Someone is going to bring all of this together. But what if we could start that now? And what if we
Right.
could actually have quantitative data and insight to build better appliances in the future? And it always has confused me that, you know, we spend more time cooking than we do driving. But we've put billions of dollars behind self-driving technology to optimize our time in the car, right? To make it more
Right.
efficient, to make it safer. And we're doing that all through sensors. And so why aren't we doing that at home and in the kitchen specifically? Because we are spending so much more time at home, and people do want to cook at home more. It's
Hmm.
healthier, it's cheaper.
Hmm.
And so I just saw a way to do that better. And to be honest, didn't think I would make it this far. But then it's been a great journey, and, you know, really stemmed from something that I just needed and I didn't see that anyone was building.
Right. I mean, that's fantastic. Congratulations, you know, to get that and go far. Um, and the product is for retail now, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, I mean I mean bravo to to do that. It's
Yeah.
a huge lift, but you know what an immediate impact it's having, because you did have a problem. Your mother had a problem that, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs have to go looking for a problem to solve, and sometimes
Yeah.
they find a solution before they find a problem. But um,
Yeah.
I think that's great that you actually solved a problem that was real and is real.
Yeah.
Um, and then, you know, I want to circle back just a minute ago. We were talking about all the data and everything. What you know, is that all opt-in for people to where that data is getting
Yeah.
used? Because, you know, there's concerns for privacy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have you know, something that like a checkbox, right, that people need to actually
Hmm.
approve to make sure that, you know, and to be honest, right now we are primarily using that for ourselves, right? Like, how can
Hmm.
we understand what other features you need? How can we feed that information back to you? But yeah, it's all opt-in, and we want to be very mindful of, you know, the privacy concerns, especially around a new technology in the kitchen that
Hmm.
people aren't familiar with.
Right, right. So people get the knob and they replace their knobs. Are you finding people are replacing all of their knobs or just one or two burners? You know, because I know I tend to use the same front right burner, and sometimes I use the left burner
Yeah.
is my
No,
pattern. So
that's
yeah.
very true. And we actually do offer you to buy, or we allow you to buy just one or two, because we know that people maybe just use one or two burners. And, you know, right off the bat, especially for a new technology, we want
Hmm.
to lower that threshold as much as possible. And so
Yeah.
we find probably about 30% of our customer base just buys one or two.
Hmm.
But then usually they end up coming back and buying the rest.
Hmm.
And then, but the vast majority of others do buy a full set. And we do see, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our customers that are buying this for someone else,
Yeah.
for their aging family members, and
Yeah.
they want that comprehensive, you know,
Yeah.
protection. But you know, I think that changes depending on the demographic, right? I think
Hmm.
younger, you know, younger adults who only cook once or twice and are looking at it, or sorry, one or two burners, who
Hmm.
are looking at it as from a more convenience and
Hmm.
time savings perspective, might only want one or two. So we do offer that flexibility.
Great, great. Um, so on that, you're saying a lot of people are buying it, you know, obviously for someone else, especially if
Yeah.
they're helping, you know, an aging in place kind of scenario. Are you finding any resistance to utilization, or, you know, because if someone else is buying it and then giving it to, say, a parent and
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, here's your knobs," do you
Yeah.
see any resistance there? Is there any learning curve or anything going on like that?
Yeah, I mean, specifically with older adults, you would think so. And I think
Hmm.
this was something that we were very aware of, because typically uh, older adults are more wary of new
Hmm.
technologies and what the implications are. But I think what we've done and what we've seen is this is just so easy to use that it's not
Hmm.
brand new, I mean,
Yeah.
older adults, they don't ever have to open the app. Someone has to set it up for them.
Mm-hmm.
But they just use their stove like they do every day. And so there's very little disturbance in,
Mm-hmm.
their day-to-day activity, and whomever installed this gets the notifications. And so we
Right.
don't see too much resistance, especially I think just because of the user interface and because of how
Mm-hmm.
you interact with it, there's minimal customer education. And in fact, I think with our Gen 1 device, these tend to be a lot easier for older adults to grip,
Mm.
to turn. And so I think the way that we built this, we see that that solves for a lot of the hesitancy that you might see with other technologies.
Yeah.
Now, there are people that are hesitant about what this is doing and what it
Mm-hmm.
can do, and I think over time, as we create more awareness around the technology, around the problem, that hopefully that's something that people get more familiar with.
Right, right. Well, I think that's a testament to the design. You went user first, and how are they already using what's there?
Mhm.
And so many times I see it so easy for like, hey, we have all this technology, so let's
Yeah,
make it a touch screen and let's get you push notifications and all that. And I see, speaking, touching back on what we were talking about before, is like for some reason the kitchen's kind of the last place getting some of the smart technology.
yeah,
Um, and I think it's it's part because cooking is so intimate, it's so personal, and it's so steeped in your own and your cultural traditions, that you don't want to upset it. So for you to have it, you're almost sneaking this in there for all the benefits it has, but you haven't disrupted anybody's workflow or interaction. So I say that's great.
yeah. I always say that I see our technology as like an iceberg. Like you
Hmm.
see what you
Hmm.
like it's not as I guess the mass of our technology is on the back end, right? On
Hmm.
everything that we're doing, that we're monitoring for you, but you see very little of it in your kitchen, right? It's
Hmm.
not taking up a large amount of space. It's not
Hmm.
obtrusive. And I think we're actually working on Gen 2 because we do know that aesthetics, and
Hmm.
colors, like all of these things,
Hmm.
I think really matter, especially when you get to the broader consumer base. And I always wanted this to blend into your kitchen. It shouldn't be something that really stands out, because
Hmm.
people take a lot of pride and effort into building the kitchen that they want, and they use it the way that they want to. And so we're not here to change the way that you cook. We just want to
Right.
make it.
Yeah, that's great. Um, on the remote use, you're using an app and you
Yeah.
say that could, it sounds like a lot of people are using it just to make sure that safety measure, and some are watching from afar to keep an eye on the relative who may be having difficulty with the cooking and whatnot. But you also say there's remote use to where I can change the flame or
Yeah.
the gradient of heat output.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned this one of your other podcasts, like other room cooking, right?
Ah,
This isn't
yeah,
really meant for when you're like driving somewhere, but if you're in
right.
another room and you realize that, hey, something is boiling or I need to turn it off,
Hmm.
that you can do it from anywhere.
Hmm.
We also see a lot of people that are using that cooking timer where that your rice is going to take 18 minutes or your
Hmm.
hard-boiled eggs are going to take 12 minutes. And
Hmm.
oftentimes what happens, especially when you don't have the proactive automation, is inevitably you forget and you're not in the
Hmm.
room.
Right, right.
And so we do see that those features are used a lot too, especially for, middle-aged adults with families,
Hmm.
with kids at home that are
Yep,
multitasking, working from
yep.
home. I think that level of simplicity and automation does go a long way, especially for the things that you cook every day. Like I make
Yeah.
hard-boiled eggs every single day. And so it's like one less thing I've got to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the interface, when you're doing that, say you're adjusting it, is it a 1 through 10 kind of thing? Is it low, medium, high? Like how is
Yeah,
it?
right now it's off, low, medium, and high. That's
Okay.
generally how most ranges look. I do know that
Hmm.
there are ones that have steps and numbers.
Hmm.
And I think part of our strategy is over time, as we kind of talked about and alluded to, is working with the strategics, the OEMs
Hmm.
to get that level of granularity. Like we know you have this stove, this model, so we
Yeah.
know to pre-populate your app with whatever the settings are on that specific stove. Right now, it's hard for us to do because there're just so many.
Yeah.
So we're just sticking with low, medium, and high and off.
Right, right. Which, you know, even, you know, I find this with induction too, because you do have, you have usually 1 through 9 or 1 through 10. And it's really just the more you use it, the more you get familiar with what that heat output is. And I always tell people, you know, I mean, when you're doing a gas stove and you're doing it by eye, you know, how consistent is that going to be?
Yeah.
So for this to even have that retrofit in, you know, every time it's at low, medium, or high, it's the same low, medium, or high, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, so you said right now you've got 65% of the ranges out there
Yeah.
this will engage with.
Yes.
And now is that covering, say, range like cooktops?
So our Gen 1 works on ranges where the knobs are vertical. So our Gen 2 will work on flat tops. The reason for that, as you can imagine, there's a lot of, like the iceberg, there's a lot of complexity in what is actually going on in the device, even though you can't see it. And so we use a variety of sensors that allow us to detect position. So that's a big kind of core piece of our technology, where we know what low, medium, and high looks like specifically for your stove. And we have to use different sensors depending on whether the knob is vertical or horizontal.
Okay.
And because of the different sensors, there are a variety of factors, like if there's metal in the device that can interfere with those readings. And so, you know, we decided, let's get a Gen 1 out. Let's get people using this. We've got enough compatibility where we can at least get a core customer base. And then let's build on that functionality for stovetops and any other ranges that we currently don't work with. So primarily the ranges with the knobs that are vertical, it could be gas or electric though.
Yeah. Yeah. And so people are, you know, if they're imagining that vertical would be your standard range where the knob is facing you. Yeah. Yeah. As opposed to when it's on the countertop. So that, I mean, yeah, that's got to be, I mean, the slided range is the majority of the market, and that's got to be, you know, the standard really is kind of, you're getting a lot of them when you build to that. So what are some of the upcoming features on Gen 2 that, you know, you're building off of this?
Yeah, so I mean, functionality wise, it's pretty much the same. It rotates, it, you know, can give you you know, setting remotely. The biggest difference with Gen 2 is we built it in like a two-part design that allows us to fit the brand style and aesthetic of your stove. Like if you wanted a red knob or a blue or stainless steel, we can actually match those colors now without having to change the core part of the technology.
Sure.
That's one thing. It's also about 50% smaller than Gen 1. And so some of our compatibility constraints come from the size of the knobs just being too close together to fit them side by side. And so we're able to fit almost any range. And then, you know, we of course can fit stove tops, so we don't have to worry about vertical versus horizontal knobs.
Okay,
and
great.
Also, you know, I think built this with keeping in mind any other integrations that we want to be able to add. So if, you know, there are other temperature probes or, you know, computer vision systems, I know you mentioned a few in your, you know, podcast, that we can much more easily integrate that here, where you can actually feed any input into this and we can give you the desired output. So a lot of it is just form factor and making sure that from an aesthetic perspective, we're not cutting people out. But then we're also looking a bit more long-term on where else can we go with this and expand that functionality.
Right. Well, that sounds exciting to have that coming up and down the line. So if someone is interested in getting the smart knob, I know there's the website, and then I'll let you talk about that in a second, but I just want to see if someone's saying, okay, well, I have this range or this brand or this model. Is there an easy way for them to find out if it's compatible?
Yeah, so we do have a compatibility quiz on our website, Ome Kitchen, omekitchen.com. But what you can also do is just, if you have a picture of your stove, just email us at
Hmm.
support@omekitchen.com. I look at them a lot. Our CTO does, our team
Hmm.
does. So
Yeah.
we are stove experts at this point. Probably more, never thought I would say that. But we can actually just probably look at your range pretty quickly and tell you if it's compatible or not. So you can either take the quiz or just email us directly and
Yeah.
we'll give you an answer.
Yeah, that's very convenient for both for
Yeah.
having that guide on there, but also I find more and more when I'm interacting with companies and it's just like, oh, let's just take a picture. Oh, let's just, if it's taking a picture of the model number or what I have, yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's funny the industry, the appliance retail industry, it's something we all say and it works for me too. It's like nobody means to get into it, but
Yeah.
nobody gets out.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So, if someone is interested in getting this and they want to learn more,
Yeah.
what's their next step?
Yeah, so I would visit our website, omekitchen.com. We've got installation videos so you can see how you install this. You can see some of our functionality, but you can also just reach out to me directly. I respond to a lot of our customer service calls and inquiries because I want to learn from our customer base about why they're using this, what's
Hmm.
missing, what's going well, what's not going well. So a variety of ways that you can get in touch with us, but don't hesitate to.
All right. Well, fantastic. That's the Ohm Smart Knob. OME, like home, but no H,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Some marketing, yes,
Right.
marketing is there. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Akshita Iyer, for teaching us so much about this wonderful product. I think it's a fantastic um, addition to the marketplace, being so accessible to people, being easy to use, easy to install, and we're seeing more and more of this, and it fits in the technology that I embrace enjoy and like to teach about is what enables people to do more
Yeah.
than and do things easier, not necessarily what's flashy.
Yeah.
Or I'm not to say it's not flashy, it's a great use of technology, but there's
Yeah.
some things out there that some clientele aren't going to embrace because it's it's touchscreen and confusing and it's connected for no good reason. Whereas this I see has such a great application.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you for taking the time to learn about what we're building and for sharing all of the technologies that are there in the smart kitchen space. And look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.